Hello and welcome to Keeping It Young podcast, conversations about marriage, family, and ministry life. I'm Dave.
And I'm Bethlie.
And we are the Youngs.
Are we continuing about parenting special needs?
No, we are closing that door.
Are we closing it down? Wow.
Yes, we are.
That was quite an epic series. And I will also say that we did a lot of those with fear and trepidation.
Yeah, but we believe in sharing the truth, and we're just trying to share wisdom. And so Thank you guys for joining us for all of that. I know that there are just great needs for families, and all of us need help with our children.
Yes.
So God bless you for joining us for all of that. And today we're going to start a brand new mini episode here. And
episode?
Mini series. That's what I meant, right?
There we go.
A mini series, not a mini episode, a mini series. And so we'll start a mini series here. And we're going to talk about caring for aging parents. This question has come up quite frequently for us. And it's taken us some time to think through how to work our way through this. We know that the Bible doesn't give us necessarily specific applications on how to do that. And probably because of cultures are different. So we have to apply the Bible principles in every situation, in every culture. We do know that it's right to honor our father and mother.
Right.
And the Bible does teach us that we are to do that so that it will be well with us all the days of our life. God is very pro-family, and God does set in place plans. You'll read in the Old Testament law, plans for helping those who are getting older. And things that were set in place to help them to be able to eat and to take care of themselves and things of that sort.
Right.
So we know it is important, and we're living in a generation where our parents and our life, our life expectancy is getting longer and longer.
Right.
And there's a positive and a negative to that. The positive is that we are healthier than we've ever been. But the negative is that when we are not healthy, it can go for a very long time. We can live for a very long time in an unhealthy state.
Yes.
And so for those of us and those of you who care for aging parents, this is a very important matter to navigate wisely and biblically. And so we're going to just try to offer you some discernment, some wisdom. And I know that it means more to Bethlie. My parents are doing well, and they are getting older, but they're healthy.
Yes.
And Bethlie's parents are in heaven. And her father had some health issues later in life. He was our pastor in Ohio. Many of you would know Pastor Dennis. And yet he passed away rather suddenly. Mom Dennis, on the other hand, did require quite a bit of care, at least for the last 18 months of her life, or the last year of her life.
Probably more in and out in the last 18 months of her life, and then probably the last 4 to 6 months of her life, she needed constant.
Sure.
Yes.
And we have several friends that have taken care of parents, for 5 years or more, and some who have them just move into their home and they take care of them in their home.
Right.
So there's all kinds of situations and scenarios that you would be aware of. So we just want to give you some advice about it.
There could be all kinds of reasons too. Sometimes those of us who had aging parents or have aging parents, you just want to keep an eye on them. And so you want to live closer to them. Maybe you have lived at a distance and your parents retire and they're getting older and you just feel like, they're doing okay, but I just want to make sure they're okay all the time. And I want to take care of them. And that's a wonderful heartbeat to have, that you just want to be close to them enough that you can do special things for them. Maybe have them over or celebrate birthdays with them or go to the grocery store with them or whatever.
I would say a couple of things right up front here. First of all, it is a good thing. It is a positive thing to want to take care of your parents.
Absolutely.
That is a good thing. And will that have ramifications on a family? Will that have ramifications on your marriage if you're taking care of your parents? Well, of course. But it is a good thing, and I think it's a Christian thing and a biblical thing. Yes. But as as far as our outline goes, we have probably 6 points here to share with you in the next couple of weeks here. And the first one would be very simply this. Just know this. This is a great way to start talking about caring for aging parents.
Yes.
It is hard.
It is.
And you certainly would know that because you took care of your mom. So talk about that a little bit.
Well, life is busy all by itself. You have demands, especially if you are adulting, which I know all of you who have aging parents, you've hit those 40s, 50s, and so on in the years. And so you are busy. You're running with your own family. You have your own job. You have your own life. And then all of a sudden, maybe a health crisis has hit one of your parents. And so you have to, all of that comes to a halt, at least for maybe one of you. I know in our marriage, what happened was Mom had to have some surgery. And so I would just go to be with her. And so it would be a couple of weeks out of our life that I would go and just be with her so that I could help her, take her to doctor's appointments, whatever. I know in my sister's life, they had come home during the pandemic from their mission field. And when they did, they would move in with mom, which was already what they would do. But during that time, my mom was getting more serious in her decline. And so Tori, my sister, took constant care of her, and she was in the home with her. Both times it was difficult, whether it would be me leaving the family to go be with mom and to stay with her for a couple of weeks, or Tori actually just living in the home and taking care of constant daily needs. It's just hard.
It absolutely is. And just know that. It's not wrong to be aware of that. It's not wrong to say that. If you're caring for aging parents in a life that is already busy, you are doubling or tripling the busyness of that life. And just know that. So we just want to begin by just pointing out the fact that it is hard, and there's no doubt about that. Mm-hmm. And so the second thing we'd say to you is simply this: as much as possible, plan ahead before the care is needed. That's, not really helping those of you that are caring for aging parents, but it is worth our thinking that through. Life is so busy in our culture, we don't plan ahead a great deal. Mm-hmm. And we just run from one thing to the next. And, we've been taught, well, we have insurance, so we'll be fine.
Right.
And there's a ton of things that we just overlook life because we feel like, we can deal with that when we get there.
Well, and sometimes that happens. I know with mom's surgery, that was something that came up unexpectedly. She had to have her hip replaced, her femur replaced. It was quite the surgery, and that came up unexpectedly. And so what do? You talk briefly with your spouse and you make a plan on the go, and you just drop everything and go. So that can happen, and it can happen just fine. We were just fine because we knew that at that moment my mom needed help. And so that's what we did. But as much as possible, maybe talk ahead of time. Maybe you and your siblings know ahead of time, okay, mom and dad are entering into their senior years. So let's just talk about this. Let's get a plan together of what we can do together.
Yes. And so here's just a couple of suggestions about that. First of all, talk with all the family who is involved or who will be.
Right.
Have conversations about just what are we going to do and how will we do it? And if your parents are in good shape, talk with them about what do you prefer?
Yes,
what
absolutely.
Do you like? And so Bethlie and I have always said that God gave us the gift of communication. It's a gift from God. Mm-hmm. And so talk about it, write things down, examine it. And here's just a couple of, as far as planning ahead, if possible, purchase an insurance plan that will help. Mm-hmm. If there's some way you can do that, perhaps, pay for them as a family. The whole family pitch in to pay for an insurance plan that's going to help with needs as your parents get older. Secure wills before they are needed. Secure power of attorneys, not eternities. Secure power of attorneys.
I think the power of your eternity is already in the Savior's hands.
I think that's true. So we're good to go there.
Yes.
But you secure power of attorneys and go to get bank accounts in order to where you don't have to, if all of a sudden your mom or dad have a stroke and maybe, at that point they don't have the mental capacity to decide what to do and can't.
Right.
It is far better to plan ahead and have all that in place before it is needed.
Right. And it can be an awkward conversation to have with your parents because no parents, I know David and I are in our mid-50s and are, as far as we know, healthy. But, nobody wants to have that conversation like, okay, mom and dad, you're entering into that senior saints season of life. Maybe we should go to the bank and get one of us on your bank account, get somebody, to have power of attorney or whatever. Nobody wants to have that conversation, but you should have those conversations. It's much easier just to take care of it while everyone's healthy. You can put it behind you. It's not something you have to worry about. And then when the difficulty does come up, the issue comes up, all of that is already taken care of and you can just move on with life.
And it'll take a whole lot of pressure off the family who are trying. It is better to decide things when it's not needed than to decide things when emotions are involved.
Yes.
And so I would just say to you, plan ahead before care is needed. Have a plan before care is needed. Have a plan as to who is in charge and who will help and how it will be done.
Right.
And get your parents' input on that while they're healthy so that it makes this whole process so much easier.
Yes.
So how do you care for aging parents? Well, number one, just recognize there's no easy road here.
Right.
It is hard. And number two, as much as possible, plan ahead before care is needed. And number three,
be prepared for misunderstandings and difficult responses.
that just is part of it for some reason. And it seems to come from all fronts. When accusations are made, maybe you're caring for a parent who is getting older and they're just unloading on you. They're mad at you. Why won't you let me go home? Why won't you let me have my car? Why won't you?
And this would especially be true if your parent is struggling with some sort of dementia.
Yes.
They are not seeing things clearly.
And you have to remember truth. You have to recognize and remind yourself continually they are not being themselves. This is not really how they think. This is just, it can't be. And so you have to speak truth to yourself, because there can be any number of misunderstandings and tough responses, and challenges will come. You'll have challenges about, setbacks and extra sicknesses and remembering medications. You have to absolutely be prepared for those understanding and difficult responses. And to that end, you need help. You may need to take a break. You may need to get someone else in your life you may just need to talk through. You won't believe what she said today.
Right.
And I know you and your sister would talk all the time when she was dealing with you. Mama Dennis is in heaven, and Mama Dennis was one feisty lady.
She could be very
And
feisty.
she was, we used to say, well, she's a force to be reckoned with, because she just was a strong woman.
Yes.
And I remember Tori had this unique ability to just laugh. And of course she felt it, she would carry it, but the two of you would get on the phone and say, you won't believe what Mom did today, and just laugh. And then sometimes your mom would kind of, how do you say that, come out of it. And be aware that, that was, I can't believe I did that, or I'm so sorry. And so it was this give and take. And yes, it was hard, but at the same time, because you and your sister were prepared for the misunderstandings and prepared for the challenges, it did make it easier to handle them.
It does. And it's something that you should even talk with your parents if they are mentally able to talk about. If your parent is struggling with dementia, that's probably not a conversation that you can have that is going to go well. But I know my mom was in her right mind when she had to have that major surgery, and she learned that her cancer had come back and that she was facing all kinds of treatment and probably not that much longer to live. That was heavy. And I really don't know what was going on in her heart and mind at that time. Dad had already passed away, so she was a widow. She knew she was facing this without him. And so when she had the surgery, and then she had to spend a couple of weeks in rehab to learn how to use her new hip, when they called me and they said, okay, your mom's ready to be released. You need to come and at least be with her for 14 or 15 days. So David and I had planned that out, and I came to get her, and my mom said, Bethlie, you are not prepared to handle this. You can't do, and the nurses had already told me, we're going to train you how to help her sit, how to help her stand, how to help her walk, all of these things. So they were in the process of training me, all of these things. So I just looked at my mom, and I knew that in her heart, I can't imagine as a parent looking at the child that I trained to walk and to talk and to feed themselves and to go to the bathroom. And I bathed them, as a parent looking at that child and knowing that they were going to have to help me with many of those things and how awkward that would be, and embarrassing, and the insecurity that would be present in your heart. And my mom being the independent woman that she was, I knew that was going to be hard for her. And so right before the doctor signed her release papers, I could tell that my mom was just reluctant. So I looked at her and I said, Mom, look, I know this is going to be hard for both of us. I know it's awkward, but I said, we need to face this with grace, in our hearts, knowing that God is giving us the grace and the strength to go through it, but then grace for each other, because we're both going to make mistakes here. And I said, a sense of humor, we need a sense of humor. And she said, you know what, you're right. And I can't tell you, I'm going to get choked up here, but the memories that I have, oh goodness.
It's okay, because it was a hard time.
But no, the good memories that I have of that time, we had sweet talks about the Lord, But we also laughed so much over just silly things about me having to give my mother a shower just to help her. She could shower herself, but she needed help getting into the shower and out of the shower and getting to the bathroom. And just having her stand up, the ordeals that we would have of just getting off the couch. But we would laugh.
I remember those conversations because you would call and tell me, what mom was doing. And it was a very sweet time. It was one of the hardest things that you had faced. But it was a very sweet, sweet time with your mom.
It was. But really, just have that conversation ahead of time and say, let's have grace. I know God's going to give us grace. Let's have a sense of humor as much as possible. Even if you're dealing with a parent with dementia, keep your sense of humor. Keep your sense of humor. God gives us laughter. A merry heart doeth good like a medicine. And I know it was good medicine for both my mom and I. The many, many, many times we laughed over that couple of weeks.
Yes, and I remember that so well. And just watching you and your sister navigate that together and the hours you spent with your mom, and it drew you and your mom really close together.
Yes.
What could have been, a very, distant time turned into a very close time. But that was as a result of the fact that you were prepared for the misunderstandings and there was communication involved. And all of these are essential. We probably have time to give the next point. Okay. And let's just at least touch on it, then we'll finish it next week. Remember that if you're caring for aging parents, it needs to be a we affair and not a me affair.
Yes.
A we affair, not a me affair.
Yes, because the caregiver, there usually is a primary caregiver. It was briefly me with my mom, and I would come in and out. And for the last few months of my mom's life, it was primarily my sister. And that primary caregiver can feel very alone and very overwhelmed with all of the work that needs to be done.
Sure. So think through about everyone that can get involved. Brothers and sisters. Your parents' brothers and sisters can get involved. Aunts and uncles can get involved. Your spouse. Listen, if you're married to someone who is a caregiver, then you have to be very involved in that.
Yes.
Just jump in with both feet and do it together. Be sanity for each other. Be encouraging for each other. Be strength for each other. I know that when you were with your mom, it took a lot of work because I stayed home with the kids and traveled in evangelism.
Yes.
And so we would just get in the RV and we'd go to a meeting and the fact of the matter is, this is the way it was. Homeschool had to be done.
Right.
So I did homeschool. And revival services had to be prepared for. And we went to revival every night. Meals had to be made, and mom wasn't there to handle that. And we had to do all of that. But the fact is, when it became a we affair and just not a me affair, that really helped us to navigate that. Now, I was never there to take care of your mom.
No.
But my being there on the other end, taking care of all the responsibilities to free you up was an essential part.
And I can't tell you, I did not, how freeing it was for me to know that I could just concentrate on the time with mom and I didn't have to worry about, is homeschool getting done? Are the kids looking okay when they go to revival services?
Well, she never knew about that.
Yeah,
but
I
other
didn't
than
know,
that,
for sure. But I knew that homeschool was getting done and that the kids were well cared for and they were getting food to eat and they actually had a good time. They were fine. They missed me. David missed me, but I knew things were going on in my absence, and that took a huge burden off my heart.
Sure. So what we're talking about here is it's got to be a we affair. And not a me affair. I know one of the things that happened in your mom and dad's life was that, or in taking care of your mom rather, was that your sister's entire family moved into the house because they were home on furlough from their mission field. And the whole kids got involved.
Yes.
Everybody rallied together. They did it as a family.
They did. And my sister was the primary caregiver, and really the last few weeks of mom's life were exhausting for my sister. But yes, her girls would help. They would sit with Nana, and her husband would help as much as he could. He would help mom get up and down from her chair and just different things like that. And so I know that was a help to Tori.
And our nephew made her laugh.
Yes. And Wesley would make Nana laugh. And that was, again, a merry heart doeth good like a medicine.
Absolutely. That's probably a good place to stop because We have enough material left to do one more episode, but not enough to finish it in this one.
Right.
But caring for aging parents is an important matter, and it is a matter that is unique to Christianity. And we want to do well in that regard. So join us next week, and we'll finish this episode. How do you navigate this season when you're caring for aging parents? You're listening to Keeping It Young podcast, and we're glad you joined us today. And we hope you'll join us next week as we continue the series. Whatever you do this week, make sure that you serve the Lord with gladness.
The Keeping It Young podcast is a Bax 5 Media production.